Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio, where we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I am joined today, as always, by Rob Henderson.
Hello.
And I am Brian Black, here to talk today about some repair equipment.
Yeah.
So we wanted to address some specific things that we kind of always take when we're out and about, whether that's just going into the outdoors, whether we're shooting at the range, whether we're on an extended trip. Mm-hmm. And this is just general repair stuff that's typically, I'd say, at most backpack size, so meaning it covers stuff that we would have if we had a backpack. It's not necessarily to repair equipment for a vehicle or something like that. It's more kind of a personal sized, amount of equipment, if you will.
And to fix gear or sustain something breaking, or because stuff breaks.
Yep, it sure does. And I think the biggest thing that people think of is kind of the ubiquitous duct tape.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably a good place to start with that, is that, there's jokes and internet memes out there that talk about duct tape fixing everything and
True.
101 uses for duct tape and all that kind of stuff. So I guess my philosophy with that is there's nothing wrong with really good quality duct tape, and you should always just buy the best quality that you can whenever you buy some, because I've seen some really stupid, cheap duct tape out there. And my big complaint with regular duct tape, is that sometimes it leaves a sticky residue behind. It's not always great in the heat, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of my philosophy with that. I do think it can repair most things. There's not a whole lot of life's problems that can't be solved with some duct tape and maybe explosives, but that's another topic. But duct tape for me is something I always carry. And
absolutely.
And tape in general, I think, is really what we should talk about, because I carry some different kinds of tape depending on...
You need to, because, duct tape isn't the be-all, end-all. If you're going to paint a house, you don't line out your walls with duct tape.
True.
That's going to strip your drywall and stuff. You use painter's tape.
Yeah.
There's certain tapes that's just better in different applications. Like for electrical, duct tape's not what you want to use. You want to use electrical tape.
Yep.
But you don't always want to use electrical tape on other stuff. So I think duct tape's a great starter tape, or... something you definitely need to have with you, but like you said, different kinds of tapes is always good.
Well, when I left the military, I came back with a very limited supply of this stuff, and
it's been slowly running out.
Yeah, so there's really nothing else to this tape other than some writing on the inside, and I'm looking at it. It's kind of like green OD 100 mile per hour tape, and on the inside it says some stuff about, Cincinnati Association for the Blind that made it, and the military contracts a lot of their stuff out to things like that. So I'm assuming that's where it came from, but I don't know what it is about this tape. It shares some properties of almost a couple of different kinds of tape. So you get the benefit of the duct tape. You get the, I guess, masking property color wise with the olive drab color of it that you would with some other tapes. But then it's also super easy to tear. It's
almost like a cloth tape in that regard.
It almost shares some property with some gaffer's tape too, and we've talked about gaffer's tape a little bit too. And I guess that was a past episode, right? That we did.
I think it was on a vlog.
Yeah, I think it was. It was on Gear Tasting, I think. But yeah, and we've talked a little bit about that. But just I don't know. I can't ever find this stuff anymore.
They've changed the formula on you.
Yeah, so a couple of people at one time when I talked about it had sent me in some replacements for it. I think like Brigade Quartermasters makes some stuff like that. And I know, if you Google 100 mile an hour tape, there's plenty of different results that come up from different manufacturers. But I've never found anything that quite equals the type of tape that I had when I was in the military.
I ordered the 100 mile an hour tape off Amazon, whatever the top link was for that Go Ruck event we did, and I just got, it was basically green duct tape.
Yeah. And I've been out of the military a long time now, over a decade, so it's, it's I'm sure that they have changed the formula. Yeah. Maybe
but
that's
that stuff is good. There's a noticeable difference between that and like what I ordered on Amazon, because like I said, that duct tape has a higher shine to it. It's I don't know, slicker. Doesn't have as much of a matte coating.
And I use it for a lot of different things. I mean, it's great for just repairs in general to almost anything. I mean, heck, you could put it on, shoes, boots. You could put it on a backpack strap to secure loose straps. You could put it on something to secure a buckle that breaks. I mean, there's just such an unlimited amount of uses for it that it almost doesn't do it justice to sit here and go on and on about what we can use it for.
Just have some.
Yeah, so I think that's probably like number one on my list. And then one of the issues that I have with duct tape is it's usually in such a big roll that you can't carry it easily in a small amount. So what I like to do is I'll actually tape some on a Nalgene because there are very few instances that I'm out and about that I don't have at least one, if not two, Nalgenes with me. And I'll put a couple of wraps of good 100-mile-an-hour tape or duct tape around my Nalgene just to have it. That way I don't have to necessarily carry it with me. And then I guess the other tape that I use quite frequently is Gorilla Tape. I like that stuff a lot too. Yeah. The problem with it though is that it gets super sticky in the heat.
True. But it'll stick to almost anything.
It will. And I like it too because they also have these little mini rolls they sell, and those are great for just kind of keeping in a small repair kit. And I kind of keep a little repair kit with me. Yeah. Whenever I'm out and about in a backpack. So if I have the space to have a backpack, I'll have some type of little repair kit with me. And I'll at least always have some paracord with me.
Sure.
But yeah, in terms of tape, I think those are kind of the forerunners. You got Gorilla Tape, you got 100-mile-per-hour tape, and then I like also this Battle Systems tape. This is kind of a coyote brown colored, not very reflective because there's not a lot of sheen on it, but it's almost like an electrical tape. So it's like they've taken the benefits of an electrical tape and taken out the downsides of it, which is the super stickiness that or the sticky residue it leaves behind. And it's not that this tape isn't sticky; it's that it doesn't leave a lot of residue behind like normal electrical tape will.
Yeah, I've used it to tape some straps and stuff before, and then a few months later, I've removed it, and it just, there's no pieces left over from it, which is super nice.
And this particular roll I'm holding in my hand that I'm talking about here has been sitting in my range box for probably 3 or 4 years now out in the heat of a warehouse all the time. So
it looks pretty good.
On the outside, it does have some stickiness to it, but when you actually take a piece of tape off the roll, it's just fine. So there's and you can see as you pull it back, there's no sticky residue left on the tape that's next to it in the roll. So that's kind of the same principle it shares when you're using it on gear and stuff. So I'd say those are my personal big forerunners: 100-mile-per-hour tape, Gorilla Tape, and the Battle Systems tape. So,
and I mean, there are more specialty things out there, but for what we're talking about, repairs, if you need to make something waterproof or plug a hole or, like you said, secure a strap or something like that, I don't think there's anything else that you're going to need tape-wise.
Yeah, and it's all about, constraints of what you're going for. If you've got the space to carry a whole roll of duct tape and you don't mind the weight, have at it. But personally, I just don't do that because I don't feel that I would ever realistically need more than a few wraps of duct tape.
Yeah, I need a 6-inch piece every once in a while.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people that will carry a whole roll of duct tape on their kit, and I always kind of like shake my head. Like we were at the Mammoth Sniper Challenge last year, and guys would walk by with a roll of duct tape hanging off their kit. I'm like, man, it's a 3-day event. I don't think you're going to need a whole roll of duct tape.
Man, I'd be interested to see how much they actually use. No, I like your method, doing it around gear, whether it's an Nalgene bottle. Sometimes I do it around those Bic lighters.
That's a great idea, too.
Because that's all stuff that's going to take up space anyway, and adding that extra, a couple centimeters of thickness to an item isn't going to really affect it much.
Agreed.
But it can give you a good few feet of tape.
Yeah, it's also great. I just thought about, plugging a leak on a hydration bladder or something too. That would be a good method for that if it lasted.
Yeah. And a lot of these are field repairs. You're going to be out within a couple days or within the day, and you just need it to hold for that long. Oh, no, not an emergency, but a quick.
Yeah, I guess the next category would be cordage. I think that's probably a good category.
I'm always going to have some sort of tape, some sort of cordage.
Yeah. So what I like to carry is some just basic paracord, but what I like to do is use our jute cordage because it kind of does double duty. I like to look for things that do more than one thing if possible, and that's why I carry jute cordage. You can use it just like regular paracord, but on the inside, it's got a an 8th strand. So normally paracord has 7 strands of those inner guts, if you will, but this has an 8th strand of jute cordage. So you can actually remove the jute, kind of fluff it, and use it as a great tinder for starting a fire. So,
and it takes some patience to fluff it, but if it's one of those things that you're in a survival situation, I'll take all the time I need to fluff up enough jute to start a fire.
Exactly. So, the bundle that I carry typically is maybe, 15 to 25 feet, depending on how much space I have. And then I've also got usually some type of dummy cordage too. So this is just a small diameter cordage that's, maybe a quarter of the diameter of paracord. And I typically carry that at least in one color.
Invaluable.
Yeah. So that's what I use to kind of secure all my gear. So if I've got a compass and a multi-tool or something, I'll always try to dummy cord everything if I'm going to be out in the field and I risk, crawling around, losing something. That's why it's called dummy cord.
Every time I've done that,
don't be a dummy.
I had, muster one, I had a knife, and I thought, I should tie this to me. I'll be okay. Gone.
Yep.
Anytime I'm like, no, I don't need to tie it, it's gone.
Yep. Yeah, that's
way out.
Yeah, so, and cordage can be used for tons of different stuff, too. I mean, it could be used to, tie down a guy line or create a guy line off of a tent in a repair situation. I mean, there's just so many uses for cordage that it's just not even funny.
Well, and if I can avoid it, I don't like cutting it. So if I can use it without cutting it, because then I can just take it down and reuse it. The second I cut it, it's that length. But if I can put up like a 10-foot clothing line or something, I'll just leave the excess or tie it up or something like that.
Yeah, drying line is a perfect example of something you might need some cordage for.
And you just take it down and keep it with you. It's reusable. Tape, not really reusable once you put it on something that's kind of done, but the cordage, you can just keep reusing it if you don't change the length or fray it up or anything like that.
An interesting use for paracord that I'm just kind of remembering is that I went on some little some adventure with PDW where we hiked up a river, and we were kind of jumping off of a cliff to continue kind of moving through the river because we were at a point where we couldn't. I mean, we could climb down, but it would take forever, so we just decided to jump into the water.
Oh wow!
And I tied off my dry bag, as a dummy line with paracord to my waistband.
Nice.
So I basically threw the bag first, and then I jumped. That's
awesome.
Yeah, so that I would keep track of my bag once I hit the water. But,
badass.
Yeah, so that was an interesting use for some cordage. But anyway, I've always got cordage with me, and I think it's definitely invaluable, just like the tape is.
Well, and you can use that to, if you break a strap in a buckle or something, you can rig up paracord to hold that.
Yep, that's
just continue to make stuff. I mean, everybody makes stuff out of paracord, bracelets, watch bands, all that kind of stuff. So it's super useful to have that.
Agreed. And I'm less of the opinion that I'm going to carry a survival bracelet around now with paracord. It's, I don't know, maybe that was a trend or what, but I'm just not. I used to wear one a long time ago, and I guess I just kind of fell out of favor with it. I'm not sure why exactly.
I think it was like a phase that everybody went through as at a time period. But I'd just assume keep it in my pack.
Yeah.
Or, in the vehicle or something like that.
Agreed. And then I guess the next thing that I would say is almost a requirement from my perspective is riggers rubber bands. And these, you may kind of laugh when I say rubber bands, but these things are just worth their weight in gold, and I can't accurately describe how many times I've used these things. And they've proven to be invaluable over time. And what's great about them is they're very heat resistant. So if you take a normal rubber band and you put it on a strap or something, you put it out in the heat, it's going to rot and deteriorate and all that great stuff. But for some reason, the rubber that these riggers rubber bands are made out of, not only is it thicker, and they're wider than the normal rubber bands, but they just last forever. So they got their name from parachute riggers. So they would use them to basically tie down the lines inside of a chute when you're packing it. And they like these because they don't rot. So, you can leave a chute packed for a long time and not have to worry about the rubber bands holding the lines from rotting out. So,
well, I've noticed even they're very resistant to friction. You take a regular rubber band and you work it back and forth a few times and it'll break on you. These, I have several of these that are on different pieces of kit that are like permanent fixtures because they're just so reliable. And I mean, UV light doesn't affect them as much. They, like you said, they don't rot. And they hold their retention. They don't get kind of loose like some other rubber bands that I've used in the past.
And that's not to say they'll never break or they'll never need replacement, but I have had to replace some, but it's just never, if you're needing it for a while and you're putting it on something, it's not anything you're going to have to worry about for a while.
Right.
And that's why I like them. So
the other thing I really like about them is the diameter versus like a standard rubber band that you'd buy at like an office supply store. I usually have to double those over or triple those over depending on what I'm securing. These, I'm less likely to have to do that, which I really like.
Yeah, because these are, probably what?
Inch and a quarter,
Yeah,
maybe?
inch and a quarter in diameter or something like that. So.
And I actually like to put those around like cordage and other stuff that's already in my repair kits so that it's securing it, but also if I need it, I can just use it.
Yeah. And then those are like my top three. If I had to pick top three items that I would have for repair, those would be it.
What can't you repair with this?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot,
It just stays
honestly.
broken.
Yeah. And, to kind of supplement that, I would, if I had the room to take a pair of like medical shears, I would do that for, most of this tape tears easily, but you do have to cut some. So sometimes shears can be invaluable for cutting things that need repair too. That's often something that comes up.
Yeah. I use them for cordage all the time.
Yeah, and a lighter too. I always have at least a mini bic on me. So for the cut ends or the raw ends of paracord when I cut it.
those.
Yeah, for fusing that together, or just a general repair for straps that get messed up. It comes back from the days of like burning Irish pendants on military uniforms and stuff. But I always have something like that. And of course, the fire starting ability for it too is great. Even if you don't have fluid, just the sparking from a lighter will ignite that jute cord I was just talking about that's in that jute paracord.
Yeah, I mean, this goes all back to the multi-use stuff that you were talking about. Is that, do I consider a lighter a part of a repair kit? Yeah, but it's going to be in there regardless because even if I'm not repairing stuff, I want the ability to make fire. And like you said, the jute cord is great as an addition because it does that survival type multiple use, so it all kind of falls in one. And I think that's one of the reasons that I always take the repair kit with me is I don't look at it as kind of like an excess item. It's something that's required because not only do I have survival type cordage in there, but if a strap breaks or something like that, that's going to suck to have to carry that pack by the handle or whatever if you're not able to get that repaired.
Yeah, I agree. And, along with the shears, comes kind of like a multi-tool as well. So if I can't carry, a full pair of medical shears, I would probably at least have like a little Leatherman squirt or something like that. Yeah. Or even a full-size multi-tool. And when I'm shooting, I typically take a multitasker multi-tool, which is just way more than I probably need for a lot of things.
Beefy multi-tool.
Yeah.
But it's good.
But it's worth its weight in gold when you actually need the things that it has. So, but yeah, I mean, in regards to that, I've always at least got this kind of stuff waterproof too. And I know I talked about the duct tape
great point.
a lot on the outside of an Nalgene, which isn't waterproof, but the inherently water resistant in itself when it's wrapped around that.
Sure.
But if I've got another roll of tape and some cordage, and especially the jute, which I don't want getting wet, because I'd like to be able to use it if I need to start a fire, I typically have a little lock sack bag or something. I'll put it in a little waterproof bag. And then just kind of looking through my repair kit here that I typically have on me, I've got some little repair patch thing from a tent or something like that I think it was one of the Nemo tents that I have, but it's like a spare gasket and a tear-aid patch.
Well, I mean, and that's if you're camping, that's a great tool. So that's another good point is that whatever tools you're using, if you're out on the range or somewhere where you have a specific thing you need to fix for like gun parts or something, like that's a really great thing to have. And that's when other repair components might come in other than the tape and the cordage. So you might need to fix your tent. You need a tent patch kit or something like that. Or if you have a gun, I notice you have a spare parts kit for your gun.
Yeah, so I have this. This is the bolt pin plug accessory for the Magpul Myad grips. And I always like to have the capability to have one of these things on all the ARs I build because I interchange this between ARs. So what I've got here is I've actually upgraded this a little bit from what it normally fits. So I've got a full bolt from an AR-15 in here, so it's complete. It's got the extractor and everything. And then I've got a firing pin, a cam pin, and a firing pin retaining pin. So all that together, I feel, are some of the most often used and replaced parts on an AR. So, and I've actually used a couple of riggers rubber bands to make all this kind of fit together and not
keep it quiet,
jingle jangle in the grip. So, and I just take this with me. So if I'm using a different AR, I have a couple of them. So depending on which one I use, I just pop the
same
insert
grip
out and I put it in a different rifle if I'm going to be using that. So I always have this with me.
Well, and that's great too because those are not parts that can be improvised.
Right.
You know, that's when that breaks, it's broken. You know, some of the stuff we're talking about, straps and things, you can make it with cordage, but you can't make a firing pin with duct tape.
Yeah. And, you know, the likelihood for a firing pin to break isn't all that big of a deal. And it's more, I guess I more just have it for the ability or the fact that I can have it because of this insert. It's not that I feel like it's the part that's going to break.
Yeah.
But I have seen them fail.
Yeah.
And the reason I carry a full bolt too is so that I don't have to carry around a spare extractor spring or a spare extractor pin or something like that. Yeah. And then I'd have to sit there and fumble with that. I'd rather just open up my gun, pull that stuff out, you know, break down the bolt carrier group, and then just replace the bolt and be on my way. So,
well, like you said, that fits in the grip. It's not like you're having to denote any other additional space to it.
Yep.
So that's a great point. So, I mean, it's always situational, depending on what tools and stuff you have.
Yeah.
I mean, having backups is never going to hurt anybody.
And I don't have anything like that when I shoot an AK because you don't need it.
The AK is its own backup system.
Yeah. It's just that reliable, honestly.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's, I mean, kind of speaking more towards the weapon-centric stuff, too. I've always at least got some Slip 2000 EWL. That's my kind of lube of choice, if you will.
Which I consider a repair item.
Yeah,
if you're having issues with the weapon, try lubricating it first, see how that comes out.
Yep. And then I would also include batteries.
Yeah, I was just about to say
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more of a consumable, I guess. But I really do feel like batteries fit in with this.
It's like
topic
spares
as
territory.
Well. Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's the thing that's most likely to go down.
Oh, sure.
You know, I've been on trips where I'm super ready to do something and I fire up the GPS and it's, I forgot to change the batteries out in this. So hopefully you got some spares.
Yeah, one thing along that topic is that I always use lithium batteries. I've just gotten to that point in my life where I don't mind paying more for batteries.
For them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've just seen so many times in my life things have happened to where those alkaline batteries leak into devices, or they've been sitting for a prolonged period of time and they just leak on their own. Like I've had batteries in a perfectly good, package that I bought from the store that haven't even been opened, and they're just, I found that they leaked inside the package. So I'm just kind of done with alkaline batteries in my life when I don't.
And they're not that much more expensive for lithium.
Yeah. So yeah, I always run lithiums. Surefire makes great 123 batteries that are lithiums too, and I think
they're like guaranteed for like 10 years or something.
Yeah,
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, and I've always got my batteries in these little Storacell battery holders because it just makes them really easy to store and use, and just pop out of this little holder, and they don't rattle around everywhere. And the one thing you have to worry about storing batteries is if they contact each other, they can drain. So this kind of keeps them out of that.
Well, and stuff like this is great too because something that people don't think of very often is we ran into it on that GoRuck event is it's dark.
Yeah.
I can't see. I need to fish around for batteries. The Storacell thing, I know what it feels like. It's a big piece. I can grab it. If you're fishing around for one CR123 battery at the bottom of your bag, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. And then, along those lines too, I mean, this is more admin role specific, but I always carry a Sharpie and a pen and a pencil. So my pencil is my backup for my pen, or a pen's my backup for my pencil, depending on what I'm using it for. And then a Sharpie is just kind of my
go-to.
Yeah, I just always
I need to write on this thing.
A Sharpie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but it's just always something I have with me.
I think it writes so well on so many surfaces.
That and a Write in the Rain notepad is usually always with me. Some type of waterproof notepad is always carried.
Yeah.
And, my pen is typically always a Write in the Rain pen too, because I just like having that.
I think it's funny because I think all this stuff fits together so well because I don't know about you, but all of this stuff lives in the same spot.
Yeah.
In where I'm going to put it, this would all be in the same pocket. So I think that's why it's so closely aligned with like a Sharpie as part of my repair kit because it's just where I keep all the same stuff.
Yeah, I like these Write in the Rain pencils they came out with a while back because the lead's really nice and it doesn't break. But my issue with this, and I actually have a piece of...
I was going to say, you fixed it.
I have a piece of 100-mile-per-hour tape on my eraser because the eraser always falls out and that's where the lead lives, so the lead leaks out everywhere. But
and you had a repair to make and you made it with tape.
I did. That was a field repair right there.
It just stayed permanent.
Yeah. And then, the other thing that I kind of think about that, we didn't really address is kind of, our bodies need repair too.
Yeah.
So, like when you blow out a foot with blisters
Yeah.
from, not taking care of your feet the right way and
Yep.
not properly preparing when you're going to walk 10 miles or whatever,
Yep.
you got to carry something to repair your feet too. And that's a big one for me. So, not only do I always have kind of our boo-boo kit, which is, has Band-Aids and first aid equipment, but I also supplement this inside the lock sack bag that I carry all this in with some Gold Bond powder for my feet, and then I have pre-cut Leukotape strips that I carry with me too.
That's a good idea.
Our boo-boo kit does have some moleskin, but I'm just not a big fan of moleskin for foot repair. So,
More of a Leukotape.
yeah, the Leukotape's my big thing and you also have to carry some alcohol pads, which our boo-boo kit does have, but I carry some extras of those.
Yeah.
So I can cut or so I can wipe off my feet before I apply the Leukotape strips, because that's the important thing. Your feet sweat, and then when you take off your socks, if you don't wipe the area you're about to apply the Leukotape down with an alcohol pad first, it won't stick properly.
Gotcha.
And that's the whole thing with it, is that you want it to stick right.
It'll just come loose and cause more issues.
Yeah, and I pre-cut them by, kind of thinking about, what my history is with blisters. I want some that are going to be large enough to wrap around my heel, because that's sometimes where I get them. Then I also sometimes get them on the ball of my foot, kind of up in that area. So I want some smaller ones too. And then I round the edges so that an edge can't peel up, because that's something that happens a lot with Leukotape, is that edges will peel up. And this is far superior to duct tape when it comes to your feet. And there's lots of people out there who say, oh, I just use duct tape on my feet. That's great, and that'll work for a while. But Leukotape will literally last the entire event you're doing, or the entire couple of days that you have out in the field, and you don't need to reapply it.
Yeah, I can't imagine using duct tape.
Yeah, because that's the thing. If, for instance, if duct tape starts to peel up and you need to replace it, when you go to pull that off, you're now pulling that sensitive skin that's got a blister on it, and you can actually break the skin by doing that. So that's my big thing, is I like to be prepared with
have
that
a self-repair kit.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, so a self-repair kit. That's a great way to say it. So you got Band-Aids. You're more than likely going to need a Band-Aid before a pack of combat gauze. So I got that stuff too, and steri strips are in here, and even some lip guard, protect against the sun. And I always carry a chapstick too. I kind of think that's kind of along the same lines too. And what I typically carry, and I think we've talked about this before, but
that climb on.
Yeah, I carry that climb on lip tube stuff, and this is the same stuff I kind of put on my hands every day. And it's great because I can use it for little cuts on my hands too. Because I'm always screwing my hands up. So, so I've always got that stuff with me too.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's a recap of some repair stuff. I mean, is there anything that you use that we didn't kind of cover?
No, I'm trying. I was just thinking. Like I said, this is kind of all the same stuff that we'll have no matter what the event is, whether it's a camp trip. The only thing I would say is that sometimes it scales larger or smaller depending on what I'm doing. But this is definitely a listing of everything that we try to keep on us to repair.
Agreed. Yeah, and if you guys out there have tips on some things that you carry with you that we didn't address, feel free to shoot us a comment.
Absolutely.
We're always up for listening to what you guys have to say, and we learn so much from you guys too. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out with questions and comments like that, and thanks for listening. All right, guys, thanks for listening to Gear Tasting Radio. We've recently started a Patreon page, and if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a way for us to kind of have you guys support what we're doing here and also give you back something in return. A little bit like what we did with membership stuff, but this is more focused on specifically towards our gear tasting video content and radio content, because we've got some great goals that we want to do with these shows. So if you can, head over to patreon.com/ITS Tactical, and you can donate there if you're willing to. If you feel like you're getting about $2 in value a month, we'd love to have your support. There's an option for that. So thanks again for listening, and you can find us every Tuesday on iTunes. We got a fresh new episode coming out of Gear Tasting Radio every Tuesday. And if you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing on iTunes. We'd love to have your subscription as well as your rating and review. So thanks again.